Thornton Wilder, the playwright, once said, "The future is the most expensive luxury in the world." I tend to agree with him. Welcome to our panel, The Future of Luxury. It's a slightly different lineup from the one published due to some unfortunate circumstances and an illness. But we have a fantastic panel here today, and I'm thrilled to be moderating it. I'm Sara Vaughan, an innovator, creator of brands with purpose, podcaster, writer, and fashion follower. So I'm thrilled to be here today. My panel are absolutely amazing, and I'd like them to introduce themselves, starting with Pierre.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Pierre, working at Kantar. So Kantar is a worldwide leader in the market research industry. I have two missions at Kantar. First one is to be global head of luxury. So I lead a network of global luxury experts, bringing best practices, creating thought leadership, working together on the clients. The second role is to be head of sustainability in Central and Southern Europe. So my role is to help our clients to succeed in their sustainable transformation. And more, they are asking us questions about sustainability, which is a good news.
Yes, indeed. Vincent.
Hello, Vincent Smith, designer, creative pattern cutter, working for the major companies in Paris. We pattern cut for basically for menswear and tailoring, and we design for our own group, our own company as well. Thank you.
Arizona.
I'm Arizona Muse, so nice to see you all. I am a model turned climate activist, and that's been about a 10-year journey for me to get me to where I am right now, which is a deep earth activist. And I'm starting to use this term because my mom said, please can you stop calling yourself a climate activist? The word climate is getting such a bad reputation. And it is true that when we talk about climate, we can be referencing a whole narrative that is really deep into carbon tunnel vision and isn't speaking about anything that's more meaningful that goes alongside carbon sequestration. Obviously, carbon sequestration is important, but it's not the only important thing. I started a charity 3 years ago called Dirt, and we work on soil regeneration. So I talk a lot about carbon sequestration, but also building biodiversity back, also water cycling, also soil fertility. The microbiome of the soil is very similar to the microbiome of our own gut. We are so similar to this earth that we live on, and yet we treat it so badly. And my activism is about bringing people along the journey. We in this room, I know, are deep into the journey, so I don't have to hook anybody in here, which is really fun to sit in a room of people who I know have already started that journey, are probably far along it as well. So an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Arizona. Federico.
My name is Federico Tarditi. I am the head of partnerships and strategy at Parley for the Ocean. And Parley for the Ocean is a global network dedicated to addressing major environmental threats through creativity and collaboration. And we also think that design and desirability is something that is going to help us get away from the climate crisis.
Wonderful. So Pierre, it's great to start with you. Who is the luxury consumer? Who are they now? Who are they going to be in the future? And how are shopping habits going to change?
Yes, so first of all, we can describe the luxury consumers in terms of demographics. So most of them are coming from Asia now, and particularly from China, which represents 35 to 40% of luxury sales. But India is rising quite fast now, and the Middle East and Africa, but Middle East is really growing fastly as well. So they are more affluent. 2% of the luxury buyers represent 40% of the luxury purchase. And with the inflation, with this period we have gone through recently, more and more the luxury industry is dependent on the most affluent people. Yes. They are also younger. So they are so Gen Y and Gen Z represent 60% of the luxury purchase. We plan that in 2030 they will represent 80%.
Wow!
And these young people live at fast pace. they are digital nomads. So 33% of them are traveling more than 3 months a year.
Wow.
So they are buying luxury in a mobility context. They are ready to change their travel, but they are not ready to travel less. They are ready to travel closer to their homes, to take the train, but they want to travel. And of course, they are attracted by sophisticated luxury, trendy luxury, digital luxury, not so by quiet luxury, timeless luxury.
Yes.
So, but in the same times, they are also very concerned about the sustainability topics. And they are the most attracted by the second-hand shops, by circular economy, by renting clothes rather than buying clothes.
Yes.
And we recently conducted a research, and you can see one slide on the screen, about luxury frequent buyers' expectation. And as young people are luxury frequent buyers, you can reflect their attitude. This is, I will just explain you how to read this chart. So higher you are on this chart, the most important is this concern for the people. This is, by the way, I didn't explain this research. It's a research called Sustainability Sector Index. It has been run among 34,000 people across the world. So this is a global picture, but focused on luxury frequent buyers. So you see that they are more concerned about climate change and poverty. And indeed, sustainability is not only about carbon emission, but about a lot of topics.
Yes.
And the more you're on the right, the more the luxury frequent buyers expect the luxury industry to act on these issues. So you can clearly see that if we just focus on the upper right quadrant, we can see that they are very mature because they really understood what needs to be solved. So what needs to be solved is climate change, air pollution, and we know that fast fashion is really responsible on that, maybe less luxury, but still they ask the luxury industry to lead the change and to develop new materials, to come with regenerative agriculture, which really has a positive impact on the ecosystem rather than a negative impact. It's the same for water pollution. Another interesting thing is that they are really concerned about animal cruelty. And this is very important because leather is so important for the luxury industry. And not only it's not only a question about animal cruelty, because of course you kill animals to produce leather, because it's of course most of it comes from the meat manufacturers, but you still have to kill them, and so we should eat less meat, by the way. And second, it's so animal also cause a lot of pollution with methane, and when dyeing, tanning the leather, it also it's so. This and so plastic and microplastic is about synthetic fibers and also packaging as well, as you can see. Waste. Now we have a law to forbid that the clothes are destroyed, but you can see clearly that they identified the right topics to solve. And a lot of luxury companies are doing efforts on all of these items. But nevertheless, we ask people whether they think that luxury industry has a positive or negative impact on the environment and society. And what clearly appears for the general population is that luxury industry has a negative impact. It's the lowest industry with oil and cigarettes. Can you imagine that? We evaluated 42 sectors, lowest industry for the general population. Of course, the scores are slightly better for luxury frequent buyers, but we are still in the bottom of the ranking. Another thing which is important is that we see that luxury consumers have lots of expectation, but there's a value action gap. They would like to do things, but they don't really align their purchase to their attitudes.
So it's the say-do gap.
Yeah, the say-do gap. So, and I think it represents a consumer attention and an opportunity for the brands.
Yes.
Because this is a role of marketing to solve consumer
Yes.
attention. And this is clearly a consumer attention,
Yeah.
as you can see here. So as you can see here, so the luxury frequent buyers have already started to reject some of the behavior,
Yes.
but they still struggle, and they struggle for different reasons. First of all, they don't want to to do any compromise between the quality of experience
Yeah.
and the new materials. So
Yes.
there are a lot of new fabrics here,
Yes.
but they want to experience the same kind of feelings they have with the classical material. So this is a real challenge for the R&D. Second thing, and this is really important in my opinion, is that they don't have enough information. They don't know the sustainable alternative. So communication is so important there. And I know because I work with major brands across the world, and they struggle a bit to communicate because they fear the backlash.
Yes.
But by the way, I think still they have to communicate, otherwise consumer won't move. And I think the other thing is that they doubt about their impact. So it's a question also of building a community to make sure that they act together, that they are not individualistic anymore and feel like they are part of a group. And this group is human and more than human. It's all the life living on Earth.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a barrier we have to overcome.
Very much so. I would totally agree with all of that. Thank you so much. I mean, Arizona, for you, you know, listening to that, you know, what is true luxury for you?
So to me, I've thought a lot about luxury growing up in the modeling space where I was working for, as a model, many luxury businesses. I got very lucky. My career went super well. I was modeled for Chanel and done shows for Dior and campaigns for YSL and Estee Lauder. And I kind of won, as if you could say that about modeling. And through my whole time in the height of my career, nobody was talking about how the clothes were made, where they came from. And so to me, it was a big penny drop moment when I was kind of beginning to question this and think, oh, I'd like to know where these things come from that we wear all the time and that are all so luxurious. And I did a little research and I kept learning that, oh, there's a supply chain and it goes like this. And this was 10 years ago. I was quite young, so please bear with me. And at the end of every thread of every story, I realized, oh, there's soil. Wow, farmers grow our clothes for us. What? How was I not told this by anybody working in the core of the fashion industry? How was this not common knowledge? Which is why I went on to start this charity called Dirt, and we have an emphasis on fiber production and how we can grow fibers in soil in a way that supports the regeneration of soil biodiversity, of surface biodiversity, and of course the human aspect as well. How can we farm in a way that brings us closer to nature and doesn't just expose us to tons and tons of harmful chemicals, because that is sadly the life of a farmer most of the time, is they're just measuring out chemicals, spraying chemicals many times a year. Farming, we think of, oh, maybe chemicals are used once when there's a bug. They're used routinely 16 times a month. Like it's really terrible. And so luxury, what does luxury mean to me?
Yes.
Over this 10 years, I have realized, to me, luxury is very simple. It's something that's truly beautiful, and the word beautiful does not encompass exploitation.
Yes.
The word beautiful does not encompass abuse. The word beautiful does not encompass degradation, not at all. So when I look at products now in the luxury space, to me they don't look beautiful because I know their stories. And this is why stories are so important. We must understand who made our clothes and where they came from. And that when it says made in Paris, it doesn't necessarily mean that the whole thing was made in Paris. It probably doesn't. In most cases, it means that the wool came from New Zealand and was shipped to 7 different places in order to be processed. And the cotton came from China and was shipped to 7 different places to be processed. And it ended up in Italy. And then it was sewn together in Italy, but probably not even the whole garment was sewn together in Italy. A panel of it was, because if there was embroidery on it, surely the embroidery was done in India. It's such a complex supply chain that we have, yet it's not too complex. Every single human out there, we are all quite intelligent. We can all understand this supply chain. There's no reason for this opacity that fashion brands hide behind this, like, well, it's a big story. I can't really tell you because it's too long. Not good enough. We need to know that story. So to me, luxury has completely changed its meaning throughout my learning journey of where our products come from.
Yeah, and as you know, we're already aware of, everyone in this room, you know, the fashion industry is the third most polluting industry in the world, and also very negatively perceived. I think it's oil and gas agriculture, which is really fashion, and fashion.
And oil and gas really is fashion too, because we make a lot of clothes from oil and gas, or oil.
Indeed,
Maybe not gas,
and as we reduce our petrol consumption in our cars, it's going into our clothes. So, and obviously the oil companies are seeing fashion as the future growth of their companies, which is very scary. But I mean, it's super polluting. And you know, in your point of view, you know, does luxury, as we know it currently, have a future? And you know, what needs to change, and what are the challenges for that change?
Luxury has the best future ever, because luxury fashion already spends a lot on materials. So that price jump from a conventionally made material to a more sustainably made material is actually just they're already spending this much per meter on fabric, and they're already developing their own materials, whether it's fabrics or the buttons or the zippers or all the materials that create fashion luxury, and including skincare, because all the major fashion luxury companies also have a skincare component and a cosmetics component. So we can look at every aspect together and see that luxury fashion has the grand potential to shift into a sustainable supply chain much faster than the fast fashion supply chain does, because it's a massive jump in cost for fast fashion to level out to sustainable materials, which are not too expensive. We all know that. They are the right price. The conventionally grown, conventionally processed materials, they are too cheap. This is why they went so low, and we need to get used to not wanting, again, it's not okay. I don't want it. If somebody else suffered for me to have a good deal, I don't feel like that's a good deal anymore. I don't feel like it. So yes, we're in a really, really wonderful position in the luxury space to transition quickly. And it's happening slowly right now. I would say we're not in the quick bin yet. We're still in the slow bin in luxury. And the last thing I'd like to say is that there are many ways that all of us can support the transition. And one of the ways that Dirt Charity is working to do is we are creating textile standards with a global organization called Demeter. And Demeter is a growing and processing certifier who's seen their success in food and wine, very high standard for the growth and processing of food and wine. But they haven't yet supported us in the textile space. So we went to them and said, can we do that? Can we facilitate with you 10 new certifying standards for all the textiles that we use in fashion, including dye stuff? Because dye stuff is, as we know, one of the most impactful segments of the fashion supply chain. And so we're launching this year and over the next 2 years, 10 new standards. The first one that's coming out is dye stuff. And we'll announce that later this year when it's complete. We've written it. It just needs to be approved by Demeter, which is a very exciting moment that on September 1st, we will know if they approved it. It's all looking good. We've answered questions and things like that. We had 15 experts from around the world inputting into this draft of the standard. It was highly academic and really an honor to be facilitating the creation of this. And now we're at the point where we need to sign up brand champions, where fashion brands can come and say, we are a champion of these standards. We commit to buy X amount of this product, so wool, leather, cashmere, dye stuff. You could say, as a luxury brand, you could say, okay, we source this much wool. We're willing the first year to source that much, and then that much and that much of the Demeter quality, which will be more expensive than the conventional way of producing these materials, but that's a great thing that we can celebrate. Yay, people won't have been abused. Amazing. And so we're looking for brand champions and supply chain champions who will commit to this. And the commitment is really important, because what I really don't want to do is create another situation where we're putting farmers and processors in the driver's seat and saying, you transition so that I can then later, maybe, if I want to later, buy your material from you. That's a totally unfair economic situation. We need to...
At a lower price than you've produced.
At a lower price than you want, yes. With no guarantee about anything, I'm not going to share any risk with you. So we don't want to create that again. We want to reverse this economic system that surrounds farmers and processors, and instead give them advanced market commitments and say, okay, we know that X amount of wool has been committed to be bought from the Demeter standard. Would you now like to grow it in this way, knowing that you will sell it? So this is our mission, is to bring those contracts together so that we share the risk with our farmers around the world and with our suppliers around the world, because that's the only fair way to do this.
Fantastic. At the end of this, will you shout out to everyone how they can find out more and sign up? Because I think that's super important. But on the topic of like agriculture and viticulture, I mean, do you think the luxury houses that are in fashion but also have deep roots in agriculture and viticulture have an advantage in terms of, you know, resilience and understanding nature and biodiversity?
I think they would only have an advantage in understanding biodiversity if they spoke. And I know that these companies are very, very, very big, so they may not have those systems in place for this department who makes fashion to speak to this department who makes wine. If they do cross-pollinate, yes, absolutely. But we can't guarantee that they are doing that. So I wouldn't say that, no, I wouldn't say they have an advantage. Also, we need to focus on every part of every supply chain, and it would be important not to say, oh, but because I'm growing my wine really well, maybe to a Demeter standard. Demeter is very popular in wine, particularly in France and Italy, and so then I'm good. I've done enough. That wouldn't work, we know. So I think it's a very nuanced conversation that all of these businesses need to have about, and let's just not hide behind anything, and let's make sure that we're really looking at everything and not playing games. We don't need to play games right now. We're in 2024. We're in an absolute climate crisis, ecosystem breakdown, left, right, and center. It's not time to be clever and like, oh, I can do this and manipulate this spreadsheet like this. That's not cool right now. Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, in your, is anybody doing a good job, and if so, who?
Anyone who's doing anything to a good standard is doing a good job. If you're not doing anything, and if you're talking about doing something, you're not doing a good job yet, because you haven't done it. So that's my kind of spiel on greenwashing, is how important is it to not congratulate ourselves on our targets or our ambitions? We haven't done them yet. So it's great to have a roadmap. Please have a roadmap, but only congratulate yourself on things that you've already completed, and you've completed to the highest standard you possibly could.
Yes.
Then we get to go, yay, well done me. But until then, no. And I think this would help us a lot in the greenwashing
I agree.
side of things.
I think that, coupled with the Green Claims Code and the EU Claims Directive, that companies are increasingly having to be incredibly accurate about their reporting, because there are very large fines. I mean, it can go up to 10% of your turnover for making greenwashing claims. So, the writing's on the wall. So, absolutely. But I mean, Vincent, please tell us about your business. I mean, why did you start it, and when and where?
Why did I start? I love pattern cutting. I love designing. I love menswear. It's more than just it's a passion. Why I started it, because working in-house in the companies, they weren't teaching, they weren't producing, they weren't communicating in the right way of how to make a garment, why we make garments. So I decided to go independent, work with a few different companies at the same time, create my own, not school, but create my own teaching plan. So I can teach people how to sew, I can teach people how to tailor, teach people how to pattern cut. because the future, the sustainability of fashion in some ways is also the workmanship. How to continue, how to create a new task force, how to show people how to do things correctly. It's something that we're not doing in the right way, even with all the schools we have. The actual high quality isn't being produced anymore. But in my opinion, that's why I decided to create Mr. Smith Paris. We produce mainly in Paris, if not in a few little workrooms in Italy. That I know the people, I know the quality of the work, I know the respect of the people that actually work in house. So it's a very small company. We produce in small quantities, like 3 pieces per fabric. We have some manufacturers that actually produce 15 meters for us just for a special project. We're well known for that, so a lot of companies do come and work with us. So we're well respected in that means. But we still have to teach more people. There's a lot of room out there. We're lacking in pattern cutters, creative pattern cutters. We need so many tailors. Well, we've got to move on from the classic tailoring. Classic tailoring as such is slowly dying off. The younger generations, I'm contacted quite often by the tailors in Paris saying, look, can you help us? The sons of our customers are not interested in tailoring. I said, they're interested in tailoring, they're not interested in the way you're presenting it. The younger generation need to see something, they need to project. They can't just say they spend half a day choosing a fabric and take the chance that they're going to like it at the end. They've got to project. And that's where tailoring has got to be join forces with couture. So we've got to create a hybrid of way of working. It's completely different to what's existing today, but using all the same techniques, but change them in different ways.
Fascinating. And I mean, Vincent, do you believe it's easier for a small business like yours to be sustainable?
We are the future of sustainability. I mean, even the way we actually produce, we only produce in very small quantities. I don't want to produce in huge quantities. I like working with the manufacturers that produce the fabric that I need. There's At my level, I'm not talking about big companies, but at my level, I see no reason to produce it. I can see that we're going to have to change our way of producing anyway. We're going to have to produce less, but better. We can't carry on. For me, it's not a solution. We can't control what we're doing. It's just left to everybody else to check it out, see if everything's been well done, everything's respected. It's not right.
Yes, it's sort of the massification of
luxury. It's frightening.
It's terrifying.
And luxury is about the rarity of each piece. The way we work, there's only going to be 3 pieces of that garment in the world. So the chances of people actually going somewhere and meeting somebody that has the same garment is very rare. That's one of the privileges that we have.
Which is extraordinary.
We had before COVID, we had a big Japanese clientele, and people are ready to wait a year for a garment.
Really?
Yeah, because first fitting, or the measurements, first fitting, final piece.
So it's really how it used to be.
Yeah, our pieces are still sought after. There's still a big second-hand value on our garments. Mm-hmm. So it's respected as a way of working. It's a different way of working. But I think most fashion houses should have some way of working in a similar sort of way.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned about the shortage of skill earlier.
Yes,
I mean, that's a real problem.
It's a huge problem. I've been working in London recently, and I've seen the shortage of skilled people working here. Paris, it's similar. We're not as bad as we are here. Italy is okay for the moment, but we've got to excite younger people to come in, and on the technical side, not just on the design side. There's a lot of rivalry between design and technical, but there shouldn't be. It's just one thing. We're all there for the same goal, to make beautiful things. A lot of people don't want to stay in pattern cutting. Me personally, it's the most creative part of the job. There's so much to do.
And you mentioned earlier, I mean, I'm a lousy pattern cutter. I mean, absolutely dreadful. I cut the tabs off, so I mean, I'm never going to get a job with you, Vincent. But one of the things you also mentioned backstage, which was fascinating for me, is that the houses have kind of lost the art.
Every house should have their own hand. Not everybody has. You can't have the same people working in all these different houses. They're just going to produce the same thing. Each house has to have its own identity, and there should be enough skilled people to carry on that savoir-faire in each house. That's what I do in-house in my own small company. We have a specific way of working. Everybody works to that standard. It's a beautiful way of working because you can always recognize something.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Federico, we're going to move on to you now. So please tell the audience about Parley, what you do and your business model. And I really want to focus on like the importance of collaboration, because you collaborate with extraordinary brands, Mastige and also Prestige.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. So Parley is a different type of organization, environmental organization. We believe in the power of collaboration and partnerships. We believe that there's enough knowledge out there, that there's enough expertise. But as Arizona was saying, they're very siloed, not only within the same company, but within different sectors. A scientist doesn't speak to a designer doesn't speak to a politician doesn't know about education. So for us, it's very important to collaborate with everyone and be that sort of translator between the different languages that each of those industries and sectors speak. We also believe in the power of creativity. We think that we invented most of the things that we have here, so we're able to invent our way out of it. We think about things that are desirable. We don't want to hear about doom and gloom unless it's necessary, for sure, but we think that humans are very capable of inventing our way out of it. So for us, that's part of the principle. We want also to work on education. A lot of the people don't know what is a better material than another. Yes. People don't understand what is true, what is not. So educating a lot. When we started with marine debris, with plastic in the ocean. And even back then, people wouldn't believe us. They were saying, this is not true. We showed the pictures, people were shocked. Nowadays, it's common knowledge. But when we first started 10, 12 years ago, we were showing the images of animals with plastic in their bellies, and they didn't believe. So for us, it's always inventing a way out of this. How can we do that? Through collaboration, through using the voices of different actors, activists, obviously scientists, models, artists, and just brands also have an immense power. They are the ones who are able to create trends. They're the ones who are able to change supply chains. They're able to invest in these new technologies. So we want to work with them, and we want to work in a long-term fashion, making sure that, to your point earlier on, they actually are committed to this, that it's not a campaign, that it's not a marketing stunt, but it's something that they really want to do and that they believe in, and we're going with them across that journey. So for us, that is the way that we work. We really believe in this approach, and there's no moment for us to be siloed. This 2024, to your point, we need to collaborate, we need to be transparent, we need to push these materials, and we think that as humans, we are always guided for what is desirable, not necessarily obligations, but what is desirable. So let's be, once again, I would say happy and at least positive about the future, and that's why we think of ourselves as futurists, thinking about this next future of eco-innovation, of true materials that are in synchrony with Earth, with the ocean, and that actually have a common ground. So yeah, that's a bit of the work that we do.
Fantastic. And are there any particular like luxury collaborations you've done that you're particularly proud of?
Yes, so we have done collaborations with Dior, and this is one where we again showcase the importance of these brands taking the lead, making the trend, and also showing to others in the industry that it's possible. Yes. Because everyone is behind closed doors, a bit afraid of taking that first step. So if you make something with a brand like this, as powerful as them, with the wide communication approach that they have, and you show that it's great quality, it looks amazing, people are not willing to compromise on those things, as Pierre was saying. If you can show them that it's as good as what they're used to, if you can show them that there's a future in that approach, they will jump into it. And that's a bit of our approach. We like to think about a bit as epicenters of change, to have one in each industry leading the conversation, showing to others, and hopefully taking that initial risk and then opening it up for the rest of the industry.
I mean, that leads me on to my next question, which is like, how can luxury inspire, the other sectors in the fashion industry and beyond?
Yes, for sure. So I think that there's several points, but the price, I would say, flexibility of luxury is very different to other sectors. So they're able to afford a bit more costly materials and to really drive that innovation and to drive that conversation. So I think that that's one of the issues that they can say. But the other one is about influence and trends. Everyone looks at fashion, everyone looks at beauty as what to do next. So if they are able to take this seriously and really commit to sustainability, I think that the rest of the industries would follow. And the same thing with others, hospitality, alcohol, others. You see that there's a demand for it. So it's about who's going to take that first step, take the initiative, take a bit of the risk. And at this point, we need companies and we need individuals to step it up and take the risk.
For sure. So just before we open up to the audience, Pierre, what's the one most important thing you think that luxury can do to create a better future?
I think they need to rethink about the way they define their value. At the moment, they purely base their value on the financial value, while I think they really should enrich this vision of value with their sustainable and societal impact as well. And actually, that's what luxury consumer is asking for.
Yes, indeed.
As you just saw.
Yes.
So if they want to remain meaningful and different, and we know at Kantar these are the two main drivers of brand value, then they have to succeed in their transformation and then redefine the value and not only be focused on financial results, but also make as important other KPIs.
Well, exactly. And if this is what your consumer is asking for, then you better give it to them, right? Because
Exactly.
otherwise somebody else will. Vincent, what's your one thing?
Carry on with what Pierre said. I think the most important thing is thinking of the end customer. How the end customer is going to receive the piece, what's gone into it, what makes it special for each
and
person.
how it makes them feel, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have clients that cry when they get their piece because they feel so good in it. Because it's been made for them, and they've waited a year for it.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's should be the reaction, right?
It's made for them. It's an exciting part of their lives. They're going to have it for a long time.
Yes, wonderful. Arizona.
Shamelessly, I'm going to say one thing that all luxury brands could do to ensure a better future is adopt the Demeter standard that Dirt is facilitating the creation of right now. Thank you very much.
How can they find out more about that?
You can find out more about the standards we're creating on the Dirt website, which is dirt.charity, and our Instagram is dirt.charity as well. I nearly said dirt.instagram. It's not that. And we are accepting donations currently for this strategy. It would be really, really helpful if you're wondering where to put your philanthropic gifts this year. Please consider Dirt. Have a look. And if it resonates, we are so grateful. I see all the donations that come in, and every time my little heart does a jump.
Yeah,
it's so meaningful to us.
Amazing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Federico.
I think that it's embedding purpose and sustainability in their strategy, not an afterthought, actually embedding in it and taking that, I would say, first step in supporting environmental organizations and supporting new materials and in supporting the solutions. So I think that really owning that and not having it as an afterthought for a report is what luxury brands can do to support.
Absolutely. Now we're ready for some audience questions. Would anyone like to ask any of our amazing panelists a question? Oh, if you want to put up your hand, somebody will come to you with a microphone.
Okay, it's fine.
Is there no one wanting to ask anything? Here we go. Would you, do you want to keep your hands up? And I think someone will bring the mic over. Here you go.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, sorry. Shall I go first? Hi, my name is Dora. I work for Sustainability.
Could you hold the microphone a little bit closer?
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks to the panelists for a great discussion. My question is about, Pierre showed this amazing presentation about how it's important to communicate the sustainability efforts of the fashion brands to the consumers, but the fashion brands is also experiencing the backlash with greenwashing. So now there is a trend of green hushing, which is also not productive when brands are saying that not communicating enough and not showing enough transparency, then their peers will think, oh, there's not much happening, then we don't need to do much. So I wonder, what is your suggestions and how companies could navigate this landscape? How do they communicate authentic sustainability to the general public?
Great question, Pierre.
Great question. Yeah, I think first of all they have to avoid greenwashing. There's a figure I didn't present, but 56% of people have been exposed to greenwashing.
I'm amazed it's
For
that low.
any
to be honest.
sector, and for the luxury frequent buyers, it's 85%.
Wow.
So, which is why I think. So first, I think is the consumer don't necessarily ask the companies to be perfect, but they ask them to be sincere, authentic, and transparent. So, for example, if they said, and there are several luxury houses who have done that. So we have this target by 2025. We have this target by 2020,
Yes.
by 2030. And if they commit to reach this target and are really communicating sincerely, in a very transparent way, I think they are not exposed to greenwashing because they don't say I'm perfect, but I'm on the right track to succeed in my objectives.
Yes.
But there's a balance also because luxury is about desirability and sustainability is about very often about conveying a very rational message. So that's where we really need advertising agencies to help to communicate emotions as well in the sustainability message.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think there is such a gap in the way that it's advertised,
Yeah.
and it's really tragic. So if there are any ad people here, I was in Cannes Lions last week, and it was fairly dire. So if anybody has a friend in the media or advertising space, please ask them to tackle this. You know, because they're still in the buy more stuff era.
Yeah. And I think that the third thing is that their communication should also encourage consumers to change their behaviors.
Yes.
Because they have they have a lot of money, they invest a lot of money, and as you see, consumers struggle to convert their attitudes into new behaviors. And I think brand communication should also help consumer to change their behaviors and also to communicate new imaginaries.
Yes.
Because it's not about having more and more, but it's a question about having beautiful things. And this
Less.
really, we really need to change the imaginary we convey in the communication.
Very nice. Thank you very much. The lady over here, would you like to tell us your name before you ask your question?
Okay. I'm Michelle. I'm from Fashion Roundtable. We're a think tank that brings together the fashion industry and politicians. Obviously, there's only so much you can do as people in the industry. Legislators and lawmakers have a huge opportunity to lead on the climate crisis. What do you expect from the new governments, both in the UK and France now, next week? Because we're trying to get them together and we can help push that angle to the new governments.
Okay, so why don't we start with the British government, and we'll ask Arizona maybe to comment on that.
I'm so sorry, I wasn't able to hear you very well. Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
She was saying, how can we get the governments to really act? That they're trying to talk to both the British and the French governments about creating sustainable change in the industry. And
About sustainable change in the industry, and it's not really happening. So I thought, could you maybe think about, you know, how we can actually influence the UK government to lead in this? Yeah, I wish I had all the answers to that question. I feel like many people do completely let down by our governments because they have had so many opportunities to act, and they have been asked so many times by their citizens to act and to bring in steady regulation to protect us and our planet from the sometimes greedy desires of our capitalist society, particularly in the business sector. And it's really not an uplifting situation that we have right now with our governments. I definitely don't have the answer, but that is my sentiment. And thank you for asking the question. We need to continue raising the bar on our government regulation.
I would just say, I think one way is New York Climate Week that's coming up is that there's interesting developments. Obviously, the Fashion Pact was started by President Macron. So the French have a vested interest, but the Italians are coming on stream and really sort of through the G7, and I think there's going to be a bit of a competition. So I would say encourage healthy competition is always a good way, and get the governments to compete with each other about who has the most sustainable fashion industry. I think that's the only way it's going to work.
And then implementation as well.
And then
because it's one thing to congratulate ourselves on a new policy, and it's another thing to make sure that it actually happens.
Absolutely. Has anyone got a burning question, and that's the final question? Would you like to say your name and where you're from?
Yes, I'm Namrata. I run a natural dye training academy in India, and I was really impressed by all of you, and I think the points that you've raised and the things you've shared is really amazing, and it's encouraging. And my question is for Arizona, because thanks for pointing out about the dye stuff, which is a very important impact creator in terms of pollution. So I wanted to know about your take on natural dyes. What do you know and what do you feel? And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. So important. The dye standard that we have just completed the writing of is about natural dyes only and some mineral components as well. And we're very careful with the sourcing. So it's really important that these dyes are sourced in ways that supported biodiversity, that supported ecosystem regeneration, that supported the people who are involved in every step of the way, including indigenous people who are wild harvesting. That's written into this standard, that this is allowed and this is encouraged. And how can we check on that? And one very interesting thing that I learned during the writing of this standard that I was so grateful to think about is that, and it was actually one of our experts from India who brought this piece of knowledge to me, and she said, well, when you're looking at how to guard and safeguard wild collection of plant materials, you can't say something that is a blanket term, such as, and you can't generalize. Like, we were at some point saying, oh, well, we should say you can't harvest more than X amount of the crop that you find or the ingredient that you find in the forest that you're harvesting. And she said, well, sometimes it's an invasive species. And then you might want to harvest 100% of it because that is the healthiest way that you can support that ecosystem. Wow. So we need to look at ways to allow people's own understanding of that local region to be respected and uplifted. And these are some of the values that we are working with when we're creating these standards to make sure that we're not forgetting these little, seemingly small pieces of information that are crucial, absolutely crucial to the success of our fashion supply chains. So thank you for answering that question. I love natural dyes and natural mordants as well.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we've gone slightly over time, but please forgive us. And please, a round of applause for our amazing panelists who all stepped in at the last minute. Thank you, Federico, Arizona, Vincent, and Pierre. Thank you. Go ahead.